Welcome back to the Flat Track Factory. Again, we got Mike O'Neill, brake engineer and flat track motorcycle racer. Lucky enough to have him here to help me bring a topic to you that I've been struggling with for quite a long time. It's a long form video. I hope you enjoy it. We're going to talk about how to use the rear brake. One of the most common or repetitive questions I get from up and coming racers, new racers, is how do you use the brakes? Hey Dylan, how do you use the brakes? And I don't have, it's an extremely complicated answer. Mike and I have talked about it quite a bit, over the years and off camera. And I want to start with a little story. I was riding my mini moto, supermoto bike, at a little tiny short track at a school I was teaching. And I mentioned this to you a second ago. I'll tell it again for them. I was riding free ride on the short track, and one of my students, a really smart guy, one of our students, was at my school, really smart guy, was sitting there just watching me ride, and I took a break and he came over and said, you're doing this, you're touching the brake and you're doing and I said, no, I'm not. And he said, yeah, really, that's what you're doing. And I kind of said no. And he said, well, would you be willing to do an experiment? And I said, sure. He said, go out there and ride 10 laps without touching the brake. And just go as well as you can. I said, okay. So I went out, and within 2 laps, I learned to adapt and rode just as well without it as with it. And that's just kind of an introduction to how complicated this is. And I'm going to throw it over to Mike and see where this discussion will go.
Well, there's often more than one fast way around the track. And one is, I use the brakes. I tend to use it more as not so much to slow down, but to get the bike pointed in the right direction. It's yaw control.
Yaw control. Tell me what that means.
Well, yaw is
how sideways you are.
Yes. If you're heading this way and the bike's pointing that way, the angle between them is the amount of yaw that you have.
That's the fun part. That's what everybody wants to do.
Right. That's otherwise we'd all be road racing instead.
Yeah.
But I think once you get that yaw and you let off and you turn into it, now you're actually braking with both tires and getting that scrub in there. So we're still braking, but if you're braking by just the brake pedal, you can't really corner. You're going to go straight. But if you can get the bike sideways and give both tires scrubbing, then you're braking and cornering at the same time.
That sounds easy.
Yeah, well, it took me quite a few years. You probably got it second lap out.
No, but I will tell you that probably how I learned my love for racing was yaw. I just wanted to slide a motorcycle. I probably like every kid does. Doesn't a kid get on a bicycle and skid in the driveway? I mean, isn't that the...
Well, and you go to see the pros at a nice loose cushion track, and you'll watch them come in, and they'll get it sideways, and once it's sideways, they're back on the throttle, wing, just keeping that rear tire rotating.
Yeah.
So
well,
that's
that's why we all do this.
That was impressive, and I said, okay, that's what I want to do. And that was many years ago. So once I learned, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, me too. And one of my other engineer friends, I have a lot of engineer friends.
He likes nerds.
Yeah. Well, I'm a wannabe nerd. I tried to get an engineering degree, but I wasn't patient enough, so I just surround myself with them. He's been asking me how to use the brakes. How do I do this? Can I teach you? And I've been kind of saying no. But just in the course of conversation, let's see if we can unpack this a little bit. We were talking about all of the different ways a motorcycle can slow down. For example, on a big, wide, long cornered mile, like Springfield is an example.
Sure.
You're tucked in, going on the straightaway, 125, 130, whatever it is, on whichever bike that you're on, 135.
Yep.
Simply taking your hand out from the tuck and putting it on the bar, you're slowing down.
And if you sit up, you better have one very strong hold on those handlebars.
Yes, and then sitting up, the bike slows down. So already we're talking about a form of braking that has nothing to do with the brake pedal, except they're all combined. As you roll into the corner, the fact that you are cornering puts load onto the motorcycle.
Absolutely. And then we also have engine braking. That's quite a big component too.
I haven't talked about letting off the gas yet. Yeah.
And then a lot of riders are used to having a lot of engine braking, and then they put a big heavy rear wheel on it, and they suddenly discover, hey, this thing really wants to push me into the turn. I don't have nearly as much engine braking as I had before.
So when somebody says, how do you use the brake? And I say, I don't know. I mean, I don't really feel too bad anymore, because the more I try to unpack this, There's not an answer, but I can certainly tell you, and let's see what you say. I'll throw out a controversial statement. The brake pedal is about the last thing that is relevant to kicking the bike out into the corner.
Yeah, and we've just mentioned 4 different things that are involved in braking. Tire scrub, aerodynamics, engine braking, and then you have this little pedal down here. I mean, that's just 1/4 of the equation there.
Let's talk about one of my favorite little short tracks that's been featured on this channel a whole lot, Coleridge Speedway. Super beautifully prepared clay oval, and it's so smooth that you can really feel what the contact patch is doing. And that's a great example. It's so round and short. It's about 850 feet around the bottom of the track. So a full tilt open class pro bike can spin the tire around it.
All the way around.
Yeah.
Down the straightaways and all. And that's how you're getting the bike sideways going in, correct?
Well, this goes back to a story that was relayed to me at Coleridge by somebody else. Dad and the kid were standing there, and it was a go-kart night. I think it was one of those nights that we were there trying to pump up the crowd or whatever to come watch us. And kid says to Dad, "Do you think he could drift it?" And Dad says to the kid, "He is drifting it." So that's how you get the bike sideways at Coleridge. I know the bike's never straight.
Yeah, absolutely. You go into the turn, and all the front tire has to do is corner, but you're asking for acceleration and cornering out of the back tire at the same time, and it can't do both, so it tends to go straight.
Yeah.
It doesn't want to make that corner, so that's why you get the sideways.
So this goes back to the discussion I was telling you about my mini moto bike, that I'll bet you, if you looked at the data, or you could film my foot, I'll bet you I'm going through every motion of using the brake simply because it's habit. But if you took the brake pedal off at Coleridge, do you think I could do the same lap time?
I think it would be close. I think it would be an interesting experiment to see. I don't hardly use much brake, and when I don't use much brake, I just get it a little more sideways to scrub off more speed coming in.
You told me a story off camera about somebody at a national recently. Could you relay that again?
Yeah, that was Davis Fisher at Charlotte. The last time they had, that was the last race of the season, I think 2 years ago. And it was interesting. He was running a solid 5th place, but not really making any ground on the leaders in the feature. And he ended up losing his brakes. He was using a lot of brake, both going into the turn and coming out to try to reduce the amount of wheel spin. So he's putting a lot of heat and a lot of wear into it. And he wore through the brake pads to the point to where as the brake pads get thinner, you need fluid from the reservoir, and it was a little tiny reservoir, and he ran out of fluid. He didn't boil it as much as just ran out, and therefore he lost his brakes. So you have to understand Charlotte, very fast half mile, pretty steep banking to it. You've raced on it.
Yes.
Hard clay, and he just started rolling it into the turns rather than braking into it. And because he was rolling it, he could actually corner faster on entry. And he was making up lots of ground on the people, and one by one he started picking them off. No brakes at all. Won the race.
So this is about where I can hear people typing on the keyboard. I've watched for this long. We've got retired pro racer, top level, semi-pro racer, brake engineer. We've been talking for like 10 minutes, and there's no answer, is there?
Not just one. There's more than one good one.
Yeah. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. You guys are really lucky that we got this guy to talk. He's a great resource, a great rider. I'm super happy that you came over.
Hey, I'm glad you invited me, and it's always good to see you out riding on the track.
Yeah. About now, YouTube's going to put up some other videos from the back catalog. If you like this type of content, hit the bell, subscribe to the channel, and then when you log into YouTube, it'll push out a video when we do it, plus other pretty cool content. It's free, and it helps the channel out. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.